Okay, Avi Burg, welcome, welcome. We're gonna have great students in the Sedra here. We've known each other for probably close to 15, 20 years now, right? Maybe more.
We just passed 20 our 21 year anniversary.
21 year anniversary. And I didn't even know. I had no idea. Okay. So I missed the 20th also. And that's me the 15th and the 10th and all the good dates. Wow, 21 years. Okay. So we're going to discuss Parshas Vayelech and one aspect of Parshas Vayelech, which is a interesting comment by the Chizkuni. The pasuk talks about Moshe telling Yehoshua, this Moshe is like about to die. Right? So he's handing over the reins to Yehoshua, and he says to Yehoshua, "Chazak ve'amatz," right? Like you should be strong, right? So you're about to take the nation into the land, be strong. And the Chizkuni makes like an interesting comment. It's like almost like very cynical, to a certain extent, where he says that he says that he points out the pasuk says that Moshe said this to Yehoshua, "Le'enei kol Yisrael." Like it wasn't a private conversation between the two of them. He made this like a public declaration. You know, Yehoshua, Chazak ve'amatz. You figure the whole town. It's always curious how everybody heard what like people were saying in terms of voice carrying. There are like 3 million people, and like one guy talking to another, and yet like the whole nation heard it. So I don't know if they did hear it, if it went out. Like some people heard it and then they spread the word. But picture a scene where Moshe's talking to Yeshua. And everybody's listening in, and he says, "Yehoshua Chazak v'yamatz, you should be great." And then Chizkuni comes up with this like cynical line. He says that like it could be that the next day after Moshe's dead and Yehoshua takes over, that they say like no, this wasn't Yehoshua really didn't have choice like to have the rights to take over. Like this was like another Korach type thing. Who's Yehoshua to take over? So hey, here Moshe is validating Yehoshua to the nation and saying, okay, you have the yeah, I'm giving you my blessing. You're clearly the choice. Here's the one. It's a very cynical comment. What do you think?
I think it's a very practical comment.
Yeah.
Um, if we all know people who, after the passing of a parent or both parents, ended up in court, right, and ripped apart the family over questions of succession and inheritance, right? The same thing is very common when a CEO is suddenly displaced in a large organization, right, in an enterprise. There often will be a battle among the board for who will take over. You know, both as an Israeli and as an American, um, politics often become a full contact sport where questions of succession, even campaigning for the next, they say the minute you lose your last election or win your last election, you begin working down the next one. So questions of succession, especially in positions of power, naturally for both moral and just reasons and immoral and selfish reasons, um, naturally come out. And I think that what Moshe was doing was he was establishing um, both a divine and a practical path for how does he pass the torch on to Yehoshua, right? And you see this even with the two languages that are used when things like the Gemara and Sanhedrin, right, at the beginning, around Yud, that area, where he talks. There's two versions of how did they pass on the torch. Moshe says to Yeshua, "You're going to lead from among the people, with the people," right? Hashem says you're going to lead from above. So what they're really speaking to is the duality of what it means, I think, to be a melech or a nasi or a Jewish leader nowadays, a king, which is that we need both to have the divine right, right? We need to have that shared objective. We need to have that common vision that they need to be able to cement, and they need to be among the people, with the people, and guiding with the consent of the people.
Interesting. Okay, that's fascinating. So let me ask you a question. Why do you think it? I think that maybe it's just me thinking this way, and I'm wrong. But I think the Jewish people are more prone to questioning secession and questioning who should lead them. You see it in the Torah. You see it nowadays, right? Nowadays, like our streets are full of protests always as to who our leader is going to be. And you saw again the Korach, going back to Korach, and you see that all the time, right? Like the request for a king, even the original request for a king, but not even like saying that somebody else wasn't worthy. That was done in a controversial way where they asked, and for the Jewish people asked God for a king, not to be like, to fulfill the mitzvah of having a king, but just to be like the other nations. Even that was done in a shameful way. So, what is it about our people? Or maybe you want to extend it to human beings that we have such a problem with authority that we question everybody.
Um, well, first of all, I think it depends on our personality, right? I think some personalities are more forward and more aggressive, and some take a bit of a back seat. But I think that, if we think about the difference between the way that, for example, Jews approach leadership versus potentially other religious or ethnic groups, to me at least, the difference is with Judaism, there's very high stakes, right? Because with
Yeah.
Judaism, we're a group that always has a shared future, right? Regardless of your stream, of your mode of practice, Jews are proud to identify themselves for the most part as Jews. They very rarely renounce their Judaism. And it's always about the future, right? It's about that shalshalis, that chain, right, of the Masorah of our heritage that we're passing down from one generation to the next. I think that giving somebody else control over what happens in your own home and over the type of education that your children receive is we really view as giving them the keys to the future. And that's why for Judaism, it's not that there is identity politics, it's that our politics are personal. And leadership we view as defining where our efforts, our funds, and everything, where it's invested, and where do we put that emphasis? Because we view it as defining not our presence, but it's defining our future. We see
Okay.
this politicians in the U.S., for example, doing the same thing when they're looking to rile up the base and get them out to vote. Is they say, look at how the other side is going to take apart everything we've built, right? They don't make it about the present, they make it about the future. They try to use the future as a way to exaggerate the gulf between the two sides. When it comes to
Interesting.
us, at least, I think that very, to us, it's really about our own identity as an individual and our destiny as a people. That was cool. I got the D&D there.
Right, yeah, that's very cool. Interesting.
What
Okay.
do you think? What do you think?
I was thinking more along a different set of lines, more in a, but also in a positive way, where Judaism demands that we question and analyze, right, and not accept. We're not the accepting religion, right? We're Shema Yisrael, understand Jewish people, not just blindly take it on face value. And therefore, when if we're constantly drilling in that you have to question, 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 so then when it comes to authority, it's natural that we're going to start questioning, right? And again, it could extend into a bad sense where we question too much, where we like rebel, where it becomes questioning authority to understand authority turns into rebellion against authority, and that's where it crosses a line into something dangerous, and that's what Moshe is trying to prevent that from happening when he dies. He saw it happen during his lifetime that he was questioned. He's trying to set up Yehoshua for success to make sure he doesn't have to deal with the burdens that he had to, so that the questioning becomes one of understanding, of analysis, and not of rebellion. And maybe that's where we get it as a people, because we're such questioning people, and we're such, we're so analytical, and we're supposed to be. But again, there's a line that we cross when we start rebelling against authority.
Yeah, I think in general, part of the this is part of the dynamic that, you know, especially Orthodox or Torah observant Jews often struggle with is the extent to which there is an idea of subjugation to a centralized authority versus decentralized rabbinic or communal authority, right? And this is what Moshe is doing here is he's really preventing the question of, as it's known in the yeshiva world, das Torah altogether by doing it la'inei kol ha'am. There's no question as to this is what some rabbi in Bnei Brak said, and therefore in Boca Raton, you're going to do this. And then you get into the whole question of Israel versus America, local rabbinic authority versus global authority. And what he's really saying is, in this case, there is no dispute. You are seeing it. You're doing it with me. You're bringing him into the Mishkan. And you're doing it before Hashem. You're doing it before God. We are here in the political present and in the religious present and future, defining what succession looks like. The question that I would ask based on this, and I would ask to you also, is what does this mean in terms of the way that we should be approaching leadership in our own communities?
Yeah, for sure. Right. Very good. Well, look, we're out of time, but that's a
Even
good
better.
homework question. No, it's a good homework. I always like leaving, things with a question, so that way it gives people something to think about, and it's not a, full package that you get, when you're being entertained. Now you have to think. So maybe other people will write to us and tell us what they think about it. Thank you very much for joining. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good one.